This is Heather, and this is Yall Be Good. We're going to be re-releasing an episode that we did earlier this year with Heather Osterman about her son Max, who's right here with us. Hi, Max.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Yeah. Did you listen to your mom's episode?
Yeah.
You did? You like it?
I did.
You did? Your mom said that you want to work at Jewel Osco.
Yeah.
What part would you want to work at if you were in Jewel Osco?
I would probably want to work at a cashier.
You want to be a cashier?
Yeah. I also want to work at the self-checkout and stock the shelves.
Yeah. So Max, if you were to talk to somebody about Prader Willi syndrome, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know about my medication, about my new medication, and how I'm hungry all the time. And I would also tell them about my Bezor because it's a very interesting thing for people to know about Prader Willi syndrome.
What is a Bezor?
A Bezor is when my food gets stuck in my stomach and I can't digest it.
And is it painful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to tell me about any of your friends?
Yeah. I have a best friend named Evelyn.
Evelyn? Does she go to school with you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is your favorite thing about Evelyn?
Probably when we go to the mall.
What do you guys do at the mall?
We jump on the trampoline, like those trampolines where you have those...
The harness?
Yeah, the harness things, and you jump up high, and you jump as high as you can, and it flies you up in the air.
Oh, that's so cool. You've done those?
Yeah.
Do you do them every time you go to the mall?
Yeah.
I've never done one of those.
It's not scary.
No, not at all?
No.
Do you like to go on roller coasters too?
Yeah, I love to go on roller coasters.
You do? You go to Six Flags a lot?
Yeah.
What's your favorite ride at Six Flags?
I like the Raging Bull.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Goliath. I like American Eagle, Dark Knight.
And then one last question, Max. Why do you like getting your hair cut here so much?
Because Heather's the best hairdresser.
I love you, Max. What's your favorite part of getting a haircut?
Just getting to see you.
Oh, you're smooth, Max. You're smooth. Do you also like getting the shampoo now?
Yeah.
Yeah, does that feel so good? Mm-hmm. Yeah, high five, dude.
Hey y'all, welcome back to Y'all Be Good. My name is Ralph, along with my co-host Heather. We are Y'all Be Good. We're a project of Little Lion Cuts here in Kenosha, Wisconsin. In this heartfelt episode of Y'all Be Good, we sit down with Heather Osterman, not to be confused with our very own Heather. Heather Osterman is a proud mom to 15-year-old Max, and he lives with a very rare genetic condition called Prader Willi syndrome. Heather, she shares her family's journey. She shares about the challenges, the resilience, but overall that deep love that fuels their daily lives. This conversation, it actually shines a light on a condition that many have never even heard of, including myself. All the while, she's offering encouragement to the families navigating their own unique stories. So if you would, sit back, buckle up, and y'all be good.
Let's go.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Oh my God, it's so professional.
Hi, friend. Come on in.
How are you?
Doing well.
Getting myself organized. I just had oral surgery on Monday.
Oh my God.
So I don't know if you could tell I'm like kind of still swollen here.
No.
My hair will cover
It's
it.
a good thing it's on the other side.
Yeah, I know. I was literally like a chipmunk, and I was like, oh my God, I wonder if I'm going to have to cancel because I could not talk. It was much more involved than I thought it was going to be.
Oh.
But I was like, it'll be fine. I thought they were
sorry.
just going in and like a little scoop and like,
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
I came out and I had like stitches all over here.
Shut up.
Yeah, they put me out for it. Like it was that, I guess.
I wouldn't even know that you had. Oh, is it in the inside?
Oh, on the inside.
Okay. I was
yeah,
whoa.
No, on the inside, it's like all stitches in there.
It was a plastic surgeon at the
Yes,
same time.
yes.
Well, we're not on camera or anything, so you'll be
Okay,
all right.
cool. All right.
There actually is.
Oh, there
I'm
is.
sorry.
Yeah.
The little guy. It's okay. It's just a little guy.
I figured because some people like to watch some people.
Yeah. Well, and if you can't hear,
Yeah.
Right.
you can watch and listen.
Right.
We've
Or
noticed
watch and-
there has been like a little bit of a, not even 50-50 because a lot more people listen, but a lot of people who can't just focus on listening,
Right.
they need it on in the background
Right.
or on a TV. So
Like I do a lot of listen to a lot of podcasts,
Yeah.
but I do it on YouTube. So I do like to watch. Unless I'm taking a walk or something like with my dog or whatever, then I'll put it on and listen or whatever. But
I was gonna say, I usually have the podcast in my ears, and I'll do the dog walk.
Yeah.
And when I used to drive out south,
right, when you had a long commute.
I had like, I got through 2 episodes like a day.
No more.
No, and I'm so grateful for you letting me to stay in Max's life.
Oh my gosh, Max loves you.
I was gonna say, I don't think he would have let
It
you
was
do it any
not
other
an
way.
option. I actually thought he was gonna be like, "You're going to see Heather without me," and he was gonna like demand to come.
Oh my God.
But he didn't because I said it was not a haircut. It wasn't about him,
Yeah.
and whatever. So he's like, "Well, what am I gonna do?" So my mom is out. They took him to the arcade,
Oh, nice.
so they're keeping him busy.
Here in town?
No, he's out by us.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So we brought you in today because you have we have a lot of special people in your life. I love your whole family.
Oh, thank you.
But Max, I've been doing, I think, over 10 years.
Probably.
Yeah, I've been doing his hair for 10 years. And he's always been a character.
Yes, he is.
And
He's made himself the mayor here as well.
yes, he has. Everybody,
We love it.
who was it? Someone was like, I haven't seen, it was Ashley. No, Ashley M. Ashley M was like, I haven't seen Max in a while. Is he still coming? I was like, yeah, you're just not here.
Right.
So everybody knows him, and then he knows everybody.
Yeah.
We have to make sure we have hot water when
Yeah.
he's here. That's a mandatory.
Yes.
Like during the morning, we're like,
like
Max.
nobody used the hot water.
Nobody is-
Because Max is probably one of the only kids who likes to get his hair washed, right?
Other kids like to get it washed, but he's the only one who likes it as hot as I do when I take a shower.
Yeah, he likes it. That's how he gets that from me because I like it almost scalding.
Yes. So it's like hot water.
I once was told, I was watching like a TikTok or something, where a psychologist said that when you like your water that hot, that you usually have some psychological, emotional problems.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. I like my hot water.
Yeah, I'm fine.
If that means I'm crazy, that's fine.
They didn't say crazy. They just
No,
said
but
you're
like-
traumatized.
Yes, that
There you
you're
go.
like you're torturing yourself or something like that you feel. I know. I was like,
penance of
Right.
some sort.
Right.
Okay.
So then Max has, it's just called a syndrome, right?
yes. So some people call it a disease, but it is syndrome. So it's called Prader-Willi syndrome, and it was found actually officially became a diagnosis in like the 1960s by 2 scientists called Prader and Willi. I think they were like German or something. So that's why it became Prader-Willi syndrome, just based on the scientists who discovered it. And it's basically a spontaneous deletion in the 15th chromosome. So, when you're in utero and you're getting all your little chromosomes and everything, one side, it's usually a paternal, so the father's side on the 15th chromosome just deletes for whatever reason, so it's not there. And if it actually was, just side note, if it was actually a maternal deletion, you would have Angelman syndrome.
What's that one?
So it's, oh God, I can't remember the actor. So it's more like, so with Prader-Willi syndrome, you have very low tone, slow digestion, a lot of, I'll explain more about that, but the Angelman is almost like the opposite. You have more like rigidity and different things, but it's just interesting that, because that one's kind of more, I won't say popular, but it's commonly
Yeah.
known one than Prader-Willi. Prader-Willi is about 1 in 15 to 30,000 births.
Dang.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's not very known. It's not really very studied. It's hard to find doctors to have in your day-to-day care because it's
Yeah.
medically complex. So there's different ways to, I don't want to say get Prader-Willi syndrome. It is a deletion in the 15th chromosome on the paternal side, but in about 70% of the cases, you would find it if you did. So Max was in the NICU. Most kids who are born with Prader-Willi are failure to thrive when they first come out. They're not breathing. Max didn't want to come out, so I ended up having an emergency C-section. Came out, he wasn't breathing. The team came in, resuscitation, the whole thing, and so then they took him to the NICU, and obviously he's okay.
Yes.
But there was a lot of tests around and things like that, and so they did that microarray where they looked for anomalies or things that were going on with his genes, and nothing came back. So we looked for other things. Now, knowing all these years later, he had all of the traits for Prader-Willi. The doctors probably should have said, this looks like Prader-Willi.
Yeah.
You're in the NICU at Lurie's. They should have probably tested for it. Then the other, about 30%, are called uniparallel dysautomy. I never can pronounce it right. But basically, the paternal side is there, but it's silent. So it's like showing that it's there, but it's not actually functioning. So the maternal side duplicates because it thinks something's missing. Oh. And so it just makes it more hidden in order to find it because of the way the genes look when they're running these tests. So it's just a bunch of scientific gobbledygook.
Yeah.
But, so because he was in the NICU with failure to thrive, couldn't eat on his own, all this stuff, he was in there for about 2 months. And separately had some little like holes in his brain. So they thought that he had some lack of oxygen or lack of blood flow at some point during utero. So they stopped looking for anything else, and they said, "Oh, well, this is what he has.
That's what it was.
That's what it is."
Sure.
And so we're just going to deal with that. So we left the NICU not thinking there was any syndrome or anything. It was just that he may have issues, and that he would get there. So, but because of that, he was followed by a neurologist. So over the course of a couple of years, we would go in for our testing, and she kept constantly testing him for things because I think she felt there was something else going on. And then when he started to develop more, because they're so floppy and they don't have tone, he wasn't sitting up, he wasn't crawling, he wasn't, he still wasn't eating on his own. He ended up with a G tube in his stomach, so that we could feed him that way, and then we would have like food, training to like work on his sucking because he just didn't have enough strength in his like actual cheek muscles. He always looked like such a sad baby, and I always thought he was so sad, but it was because he didn't have the muscles
to make the smile.
So now, of course, you would never know. He's like the smiliest, thing in the world.
Yeah, he's so positive.
So positive. But through all that, when he was almost 2 and just everything that she was seeing, she's like, I want to test him for one more thing. And I was like, yeah, whatever, because you test him all the time. And so she said, well, it's some kind of like grazed over it because we weren't really sure he had it or not. And she's like, well, this thing called Prader-Willi syndrome. And, it's just, we won't get into it now, but it's one of those things that it gets harder as they get older. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, whatever. So lo and behold, a few weeks later, the blood work comes back and she calls me and says, I'm not sure if you had a chance to, look up anything about Prader-Willi syndrome. I'm like, I didn't even like give it a second thought because I thought it would be negative. And she's like, well, he has it. So I sort of, was kind of like, holy moly,
cow,
what is this? So of course went online, did all the things you're not supposed to do, and all this list of like horrific things of,
like he'll never do this.
He'll never do this. He'll never do that. He's, going to eat himself to death by the time he's 20, because one of the main things, I want to say hallmark, I mean, there's a lot of medical things that go along with it. And, he has a lot of kids are on the autism spectrum. And, but one of the main hallmarks is that with that 15th chromosome not functioning, the hypothalamus, which is in your brain, and that is the center for your hunger and your satiety
and
also
satiation.
And also your blood temperature regulation, like all kinds of things. And with that not functioning, he has no idea when he's full.
Wow.
So he's very, I put this not lightly, but he is very preoccupied with food. Like it is from the minute his eyeballs are open to the minute they close, all he talks about and thinks about is food because he's hungry all the time.
Because,
he that it's so important for us to portion him and control what he eats,
Of course.
and how much he's eating, because he could literally eat himself to death, and the really awful thing about it as well is that because it's low tone and all that stuff, all of that comes with it he digests slow. Stomach emptying is very slow. And digesting through your system is very slow. So he actually needs a lot less calories than the average person because he's not processing his food in the same fashion. So, if you and I were to do the same workout and you lost 500 calories, he might lose 150, 200 calories,
Oh my gosh.
So there's this whole sick kind of joke that goes with it, which is that, he wants to eat. He can't eat. He feels he's starving to death. And it preoccupies pretty much.
Yeah.
Well, and you would
his day.
never know, because like I am someone who likes to overindulge. And when I want something, I get crabby. But he's never crabby.
He isn't, but there are times where, and like coming into to here for like these snips, no one would ever like really realize that. But if you spent the day with him, his preoccupation about what he's going to eat from the minute he wakes up, if we talk about, tomorrow after school, we're going to go to dinner because we have a party or whatever. From the minute he finds out about that, whether it was a week ago or it's the day before or the day of, all he wants to know is, when are we going to be going? What am I going to be eating? And now he's old enough that he understands. So he's worried that he is going to eat something that he shouldn't eat. He's going to eat too much, but he's afraid if that plate comes and he knows it's too big, that I'm going to take food away because he cannot take having food taken away from him.
Sure.
Because it's this just animalistic, feeling of I have to eat all of that. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into leaving the house and being prepared for snacks and food and parties and
Coming when every place I've ever cut his hair, they've had lollipops. So like during lockdown is like more obvious to me because he had to go outside to eat it.
Yes.
And he would it was like not even 1, 2, 3. It's boom, gone.
Yeah.
And then he'd come in, get his hair cut.
Yeah.
And I just never, like, I've always kind of wondered, like.
Yeah, because that was in the beginning stages of us kind of like you learning about what he had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when when he was younger, he didn't have, really even now, the only thing you kind of notice is that he repeats stuff.
Yes.
And
which is very common with Prader Willi, which is repetitive. And I think a lot of it comes from just the anxiety of things.
Yeah.
They have the need they keep repeating and asking questions because it makes you feel better that, I just need you to tell me again, this is what it's going to be. And, part of it is that, are a lot of kids who are on the spectrum and have autism combined with Prader-Willi syndrome. But I don't know if it's truly autism versus there are a lot of features that
are kind
of come together.
Yeah.
That make it seem like it. To the outside world, it's too hard to describe Prader-Willi syndrome.
Yeah.
So if people, you look at Max, he doesn't look like someone who has a syndrome or something. You wouldn't pick it out of, a lineup just looking at him. But the minute he starts to talk, that there's something
going on, yeah.
So I just tell people he has autism. If I need a quick answer, I just say he has autism, because to just explain what Prader-Willi syndrome is in 2 seconds, because really the only time I really mention Prader-Willi syndrome is if I'm in a restaurant or if it's food related, so that people understand, because you have lollipops, anywhere you go, and because he's so friendly, people end up offering him stuff.
Okay.
Yes.
I sent Max in one day to go pick up a takeout, and something was wrong with the order, and so I sent him back in to correct it. And he was like, talking him up, being him. The next thing I know, he comes out, he's got like a bag of cookies and all this stuff, and he's like, oh my gosh, they were so nice, blah blah blah.
Oh, and
they
you
were
have
like,
to
oh
take it
honey,
away.
take this, and I'm just like, why?
Yeah.
And it happens all the time. So it's challenging because then he's like, no, they gave it to me,
Oh, God. Yes.
And then,
Like, this is my possession.
right. And it's sometimes I feel like if it happens in public, people think I am a lunatic. They're like, this woman will not let her kid have that cookie. Like, or, you know.
Like you're one of those moms, right?
Right, right.
Like, in this house, we don't eat sugar.
Right. And really, the reason for that is, we keep him on a diet that helps him to not become obese.
Sure.
But more importantly, the reason why we don't do sugar is because it's an addiction, And so the more your brain gets carbohydrates and like the bad carbs and sugar and stuff, the more you want that stuff.
Yeah,
and
of
it
course.
doesn't actually satiate you. It makes you hungrier. So he's fighting all of that naturally. So if you're giving him all of those things, then you're really making your fight that much harder.
Yeah.
So we do our best to keep it out of the house. And, of course, when there's birthdays and, things like that, we let him indulge. I mean, we're not total ogres, but we try to make that like our specials and not something in our everyday diet, Because like now when we come in, he knows now not to take the lollipops.
Yeah. He hasn't even asked.
Yeah, yeah. But when he was younger, I mean, I didn't really know and understand. I mean, I still, of course, I'm human.
still learning.
Sometimes, but sometimes I, pick my battles and stuff like that.
Yes.
But generally, when I was younger, I didn't know. And I was like, oh, it's just a lollipop. It's just a dum-dum lollipop, who cares? But it's like that, it's like when you're on a diet, you're doing so good. And then you're like, oh, I'm just going to have the piece of cake. That's, and then all of a sudden you're, eating a bag of Doritos in the closet.
Sure.
Yes.
Sure.
Well, I was talking to Ralph about it just to prepare him a little bit.
Yeah.
And I always describe it as like it has a lot of similarities to Down syndrome, where the low muscle tone, a lot of the same facial features between the kids who have it.
Yeah.
But then I say he just doesn't have a button in him that says no more eating.
Right.
But we also call him our little old man.
Yes.
Because he's an old soul.
Yeah.
And he likes things in a specific way.
Yes. And that is, he has a lot of OCD tendencies. He likes order, or he likes his rules. I mean, the one thing that has been nice, and, I've been fortunate, it's still a spectrum disorder, Prader-Willi syndrome. So, I mean, there are kids who are eating non-food items, who are so hungry that they're eating the toilet paper rolls. They're, that it's...
Well, we also know someone else who has it.
Yeah.
And she's definitely... She has some similarities to him, like very rigid, very scheduled.
Yes.
And
very preoccupied with food. Same thing.
Because she found out I was going to New York, and she pulled out her phone and was finding restaurants for me to go to and telling me what to do, what to eat.
Right. And it's all around food. 'Cause that's where their preoccupation is.
Yeah.
It's interesting. And, fortunately, unfortunately, it's such a small community, but it's a very fierce community. And early on, because I was freaking out and I didn't know what it all was and all of that, because I did go online, I was like, well, I want to find out what's going on, what's the research, and I did find the Foundation for Prader-Willi Research, and they're just in the forefront of, it's all grassroots. It's all parents who have kids, who have Prader-Willi and who have over the years, formed, advocacy. And thankfully, we have some of the leaders of our group who are scientific brains, and they help to facilitate clinical trials and find these, orphan drug companies who are willing to, let's say they have a drug that's on the market that exists. We're not starting from scratch, that's billions of dollars, but, we can give grants to companies who are, hey, would you be willing to, this drug looks like it could have benefit for our population. If we gave you funding, would you do clinical trials? I don't how it all works, but I've been fundraising for them since Max was 3 years old.
Is that when he was officially diagnosed?
Yeah. So when he was officially diagnosed, I started to get involved with the community. First year, it was just go to a conference, see what it's all about, all that stuff. And then I got to meet people. I met some local people. And then my friend, Katie, who her son has Prader Willi. The two of us, she lives nearby, and so her and I became sort of, partners in crime, and we do all our fundraisers together over the years. And we've raised probably $500,000 to $700,000 over the course of, he's 15, maybe the last 12 years.
Oh my
15
gosh.
years, yeah, between our walks that we do every year.
Yeah.
And some galas and different things and different various fundraisers that we've done. So, I mean, it's been, great because you feel like you're out there doing something, whether you're raising $1 or $100,000 or whatever it is. I just found it hard to sit by and go, I hope something comes.
Yeah.
So at least I feel like I know what the latest and greatest is and everything. And, with that, Max has been in some clinical trials. And this past, I think it was March, they actually got their first FDA approved drug. It was being tested for like 10 years for hunger because they've tested all kinds of drugs. And because none of the diet stuff works because it's the hypothalamus in the brain, so if that functions, those diet things work, the shots work, all that stuff. But when that doesn't function, none of those drugs can
we talked about that before with the semaglutides. They slow down your digestive system too.
And he already has that.
Yeah.
So you don't want to be slowing that down even more. And basically his body is functioning like someone who has on a semaglutide because of the slow digestion and the slow stomach emptying. But because the hypothalamus isn't functioning, it has absolutely no effect.
Yeah.
So
it's like having the munchies while on the but like all the time.
Right. Oh. Yeah. So, but he did just start this drug that has been FDA approved and supposed to really curb the hunger or the anxiety around it. It's one of those things where it works for some, not for all. That's why we're still, raising money to do other clinical trials, and because that's the hardest thing to combat, we've only been on it a couple of months. It's supposed to be like a slow burn. It could take 6 months to a year to have it really, build up in your system and everything. So we're hoping that he'll benefit from it.
Yeah.
So lots of side effects though. Max is the facial hair. So
yes,
it's supposed to be that you can get like hair growth.
Yeah.
And it was really funny because Max has low testosterone and stuff, so we give him testosterone and everything to try to get him like where he's supposed to be and everything. And he'd been on the drug not that long, and we came in for our last haircut, and Heather's like, I think I need to give him a little shape. He's got some like little mustache growing, and I was like,
well, and there was like a whisker, one whisker on the chin,
a single whisker.
But now, like, it's really like growing in. Like, I see it like his hair is growing in more, like on his legs and everything. I'm like, he's becoming a man.
Oh my gosh.
How old is he?
15.
He's 15.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. I wonder how much of that is occurring naturally, though. Like how much of the
hunger?
No. The
hair growth and everything.
Yeah, reaching puberty.
Yeah. So for sure. He will get to that point where that stuff will come anyway, but it's just been like this kind of like jump.
Yeah.
Because he's only been on it for 3 months.
Oh,
a couple of months. Yeah. And it's just like this jump that I noticed that I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's an interesting.
Well, because he does still have very soft features.
baby.
Yes. He's got the cutest little squishy face and then like a delicate chin.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to see him for his next haircut.
I know.
Is his voice getting a little deeper?
No, and I think that might be because his testosterone is so low.
Yeah.
That maybe as we build up his testosterone, that might happen.
Yeah.
But a part of me is a little bit like, I don't want him to get a deep voice.
No.
He's so cute.
Well, that's the thing is like while he's an old man, he still has that childlike wonder.
Well, one thing about Prader Willi as well that is common is that they don't emotionally mature at the same rate as their other kids. So, and I don't know if he will ever 100% be, apples to apples with someone who's 35 years old when he's 35 years old because. Sure. You see when he comes in, he's very childlike. He's 15, but he still has interests in the way he talks and everything, like someone who's maybe 9, 10 years old, So emotionally, he wants to play with Mickey Mouse. He's still very into baby toys, and that's just where he lives, you know, and he still likes picture books, and so it's difficult for him to make friends in high school because he just can't relate to kids his own age.
Now, in high school, is he in gen ed?
No. He's in, which I fought for a long time, because when he was younger, I was like, he needs to be inclusion and all this stuff. And he was not happy in that. Some kids don't like to be put into the special ed, because they realize they're different and they are fighting it. And I do know someone who feels that way, and it's really challenging. I feel lucky in a way now that I've sort of said, you know what, we need to put him where he's happy. He's so happy in the special education program. And we have a great special education program where he goes to school, which is why we moved where we did.
Yeah.
But they have different levels. So they have Max is in, he has an aide with him all day. And then he is, a lot of it has to do with food as well, because he can't have access to anything, and it's a free for all with the lunchrooms and all of that.
Yeah.
He's in some things that are life skills, which are your basic foundational, classes. And then, some levels he's moved up, but he's still within a population of special education, but kids that are just at a next level up, with what their learning, capabilities are and stuff.
Yeah.
So, but he does push into gen ed they do have special ed PE and stuff, but physically he can, do the stuff for PE. So he goes to gen ed, but he goes with an aide because his processing is a lot slower.
Sure.
So, they'll be giving instructions, okay, we're going to do this, whatever. And then he will shut down because it's too much for him to take in at one time. So he has an aide there to help him break down what they're doing and just make sure he can keep up. And, let's say he can't physically do something that they're doing, they can, change it up and say, okay, well, we'll, make it, you can do it this way, which works better for you. So he has sort of a teacher there with him to make sure he's safe. And but he does ceramics, but he has an aide with him because he has fine motor, gross motor, processing, which is very common with Prader Willi. He deals with a lot. He's had scoliosis, which is very common because of the low tone. And because kids with Prader Willi don't grow properly, the only true FDA treatment for Prader Willi before this one that just came for the hunger is for growth hormone, so that they can help to grow height-wise and their hands and their, everything to grow.
Yeah.
But with that, you can get growth spurts and all of that. And because of the low tone, that can cause scoliosis.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether you're on that drug or not, it's just when you're growing, So we tried PT, we tried bracing, all that stuff, but his curve wanted to do what it was going to do.
Yeah.
Sure.
So he this past February just had spinal fusion.
And now he's taller than me.
I know. He grew a few inches in 6 hours.
Wow.
It was crazy. It was so crazy. So he had the surgery. And then, he's in bed for 24 hours and they get him up the next day and he stands up and I was like, it literally felt like someone stretched him.
Yes.
Which they did, kind of.
Yeah.
But it was so bizarre. But, he's fully healed now. He's doing great. He's back doing his horseback riding, which he does. He does. It's called hippotherapy.
Yeah.
So he does therapeutic riding, but he had to be off of that for a while.
Sure.
But he's back on it and doing great and fully released.
I bet he enjoys that.
Oh my gosh.
I would love it.
I'm scared of horses, but he's been doing hippotherapy since he was 2.5, 3 years old. So
Really?
he started on a little bitty pony.
Oh,
and
my
now
God.
he's on a regular big horse and
Oh.
doing independent riding. And I know it's so cute.
Because I can picture baby Max right now.
I know. So cute.
So when he started therapy before you had the diagnosis.
Yes.
And then is he still doing all the therapies, or is he graduated out of some?
He's graduated out of some, although we're bringing some back. So he has always done hippotherapy because it's so good for your core. And he was nonverbal when we started, and because of the core, you need that core strength and when he started to ride the horse and everything, it actually helped his speech.
Oh, wow.
It was really crazy. So we've kept up with that because he enjoys it so much. It's a really good sort of sport as well,
Yeah.
and it's helped him a lot and he loves it there. So we've kept up with that. He's always had OT. We had PT for a long time, but as he got older, it didn't seem that he needed the traditional PT, and he gets it at school. He gets OT, PT, speech, social group. He gets everything at school.
Yeah.
So we let that go, other than we kept the physical therapy on the horse. But now that he's had the back surgery, he's got some poor posture, and kind of has some OCD things with wanting to look down at his feet while he's walking. So he's created like a kind of weird, it's almost, he almost has his head held like a lot of the kids now do because of looking at their technology for so long.
Oh, sure.
So,
They call it cell phone neck.
yeah. So he kind of has cell phone neck, even though it's not from that, because he doesn't really do that much technology. So I'm getting him back into physical therapy to help, with that. But that's just for something specific.
Yeah. Well, and I don't think he could do chiropractic because
No.
he had to.
He did that when he was a baby. We did do chiropractic stuff when he was a baby. They used to hold him upside down.
Oh my gosh.
Try to stretch his spine.
Oh.
It was cute. I wish back then I took videos of that stuff. It never occurred to me to do that back then.
How big was he when he was born?
He was 7 pounds.
Okay, so he's like
normal
sized.
Yeah. He was just floppy. Like,
just
literally like a limp noodle.
Wow.
I know kids when they're born can't hold their neck up, but it was like, because like when you swaddle, like babies kind of want to stay like just dead weight.
Floppy.
Wow. Yeah, it's bizarre.
So what would you tell a parent who has a child and they suspect something might be up with them?
I would say if you have a child and you don't like the answers that you're getting, you have to keep going, even if you have to fire the doctors and go to another doctor, because I fired several doctors. Even though Lurie's is a great hospital and I still have most of his doctors there was not a specialist in Prader Willi, So when we did go to neurology and I did get that diagnosis, I found, then you change over to, and I love our neurologist because she's the one who found this and kept looking for him.
Yeah.
But then we changed over to endocrinology, and that's the person, because it's your hormones and all these different things, it's just a different doctor. And they didn't understand the syndrome, and they didn't understand the importance of getting on growth hormone right away and what the blood levels should look like and how to, really manage that as they got older. And I would fight with them all the time. And when I went to conference, I found the specialist who's based out of the University of Florida, who I know I've told you I go and travel down to see Dr. Miller in Florida. And she's like the leading endocrinologist, and she does a lot of the clinical trials. And so when I went and saw her at the first conference, I was like, how do we become a patient? And she's like, I just need to see you once a year. She's like, in person, and then, everything else is telehealth, email, phone. And she's like, if your insurance doesn't, and she's like, I know it's a big ask to have you come down here. She's like, but like if insurance doesn't cover you coming to my office for clinic, we'll charge you like $40. Like, they just charge you what a copay would be. She's like, I'm never going to turn away someone with Prader Willi syndrome.
Well, because it's so
rare. And if you're willing to go down there and do that,
Yeah.
So, we sometimes have to scrimp and save in order to go down there and do that. But, initially I tried using an endocrinologist here and said, will you confer with her? And she will. But at the end of the day, the doctors here have to let go of their egos, and they have to be willing to defer to another doctor, which a lot of them aren't. And it just was always a battle. So, you have to keep fighting, and you have to figure out, and the other thing I would say is, if you are a parent who gets a diagnosis, when we first got our diagnosis, we had to go to see a geneticist because it's a genetic disorder. And we went and sat down with them, and their job is to explain to you what it is and just read off a list of things that your child will never be, will never do, all the potential things that could be wrong with your child as they get older. And they literally sit across from you and just tell you, your kid may never do this, your kid may never walk, your kid may never, all this stuff. And you are like petrified, And I will say that every parent that I've talked to has said that has never been the story for their child, And number one, it's outdated information a lot of the times because they're not they're geneticists. They're just looking at these markers.
Sure.
And they're not following what actually happened to all those kids that were born with that and that we met with, you know?
Yeah.
And whatever the doctor tells you up front is not your story, you know, and is not necessarily the future for your child. And a lot of the future for your child is you digging in and saying, okay, what is it that we need to do? You know, not necessarily, you don't have to do the fundraising if that's not for you. It's waking up every day and saying, okay, my child can't walk. You know, they're not meeting their milestones. What kind of therapies am I going to get into, you know, to do this for them? I'm going to advocate for them in schools. I'm going to, you know, it's all about getting up each day and doing what it is that your child is struggling with and helping them achieve and conquer what their particular situation is. Because every person, every kid is different, you know, and the syndrome does not look exactly the same for every kid. Some kids fare better, some fare worse, you know, unfortunately. I feel lucky that Max is doing as well as he is. Some of that is just nature, you know, and, you know, my husband and I pride ourselves in that we dug in from an early age and sought the care, you know, that we needed and listened to what we knew was right and, you know, and did what needed to be done. You know, I mean, there were weeks where I had 7 therapies a week. It was all I did. I mean, I had to quit my job when Max was born, and that was a hardship for us, you know, financially. But I was like, I can't put him in a daycare. That's, you know, I can't do it. So we're just going to have to buckle down and
Figure it out.
and figure out ways to get the free services.
Yeah.
There was a lot of free services out there. So, you know, you just have to remember that it's your kid and their story's not written, you know, by somebody else.
It's well, and I remember you telling me about going to Florida for that, and I was shocked at first because, like, we're in a major city. You would think so that someone would know or had specialized in it, but it's kind of nice that it's one person because she probably sees most of the people you know.
I mean, her whole practice is basically Prader-Willi syndrome.
So she's probably she's the forefront of any advancement there.
Yeah.
But then it's also sad because
it's sad because there's a lot of people who can't.
Yeah.
They just can't. We only have one child, you know, and so we can devote 24/7 to his care, you know, and put all of it for that. There are people who have 4 kids or, you know, and they can't, you know, and so it sucks that, you know, that not everybody can make it down there and have her as your doctor. You know, hopefully there's enough, you know, we do have a lot of support groups that, you know, hopefully you can find a doctor in your area who will either confer with her or take into account that you know a lot, you know, like his pediatrician that we work with that has been with Max since he was born said to me, you know, I'm your quarterback and I'm here to help you with whatever it is you need, whether Max needs to see an ortho or he needs to see a GI doctor for his digestive, whatever it is it needs, you know, I'm going to make sure that I make those phone calls for you. If you need me to talk to Dr. Miller or whatever, he's like, I don't have that ego where I'm going to say what, you know, I know everything that's going on.
Yeah.
He's like, I know that you go to the conferences and all that, and you are the authority basically on Prader-Willi syndrome. He's like, if your kid is sick, yes, I'm the authority on that. And, you know, he said, but I know when to defer to you and your judgment, you know, and so we've created this partnership, you know, over the years. So you just have to you have to find your people, you know, who are willing to see you and your family and your circumstance. It's hard to do, and it's not always successful, but
especially when you've been hit with all that information all at once.
Right. And you're juggling life and, you know, maybe other kids and jobs and finances and, you know, all that stuff. So, you know, I've been fortunate, you know, that my husband and I are on the same page and, you know, that we were able to do all that for him. But, you know, a lot of it is just showing up for your kid and just figuring out what they need and giving them the best to them that you can, you know. I mean, that's all it is, you know, and, you know, whatever your kid grows up to be, who they grow up to be is who they're meant to be, you know. I mean, not to make it as cookie cutter as that because it's gut wrenching that, you know, I see kids going to prom and, you know, Max did go to freshman year, you know, they had homecoming or whatever. And it broke my heart to drop him off. And he wasn't with a group. His aide met him at the door and he went in and he had a great time. He didn't think about the fact that he wasn't with a group and he wasn't going out to dinner after and going to the parties and everything. It broke my heart.
Yes.
You know, because I have memories of doing that and I want him to have that experience. Like, he's not going to go to college, you know, but his dream is to work at Jewel. All he talks about, he loves it. He knows everybody at our Jewel. It's across the street from our house.
Oh my gosh.
He wants to run the show there. You know what?
Well, we know people who might be able to make that happen.
Yeah,
all of Ashley's family.
yeah.
Oh, really?
They
Oh,
work
yeah,
for
that's so
Jewel.
funny.
Ashley Marson.
Right, and that, you know what? That's a great job. You know, it's just because in my mind, I went to college. I did, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's, you know, first of all, I'm not unhappy to not have to pay for college these days.
Yeah.
It's insane when I
Yes.
hear my friends talking about it. But, you know, it just, I had to let go of my dream of, you know, and that's really hard to do. And it, you know, every new step that you see your friends' kids having, it's a little gut wrenching, you know, and that, I don't think that ever goes away. And it can be lonely, you know, like when I go out to dinner with my girlfriends or whatever, and no one there has a kid with special needs, and all we're talking about is because it's the age they're at, what colleges they're going to, what they're going to do afterward, and you know, one's going to be a pilot and one's going to do this, and it's just like, okay, like my kid might work at Jewel. I'm pretty sure he's never going to not live alone.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, you know, when it's sometimes hard because I'm like, I don't really have anything to contribute to the conversation. I know my friends care about me.
Yes.
And I know they love me and they love my child and they are interested in what he's going to do with his life, but it doesn't change the, you know.
All the dreams that you have when you're pregnant and everything. Yeah.
Right.
Because we've had that kind of talk before about like having friends over and his attention span for the friend is shorter.
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, bye.
Right.
And then, because I was going to ask you, like, I know he likes Mickey Mouse. He's been Mickey Mouse for every Halloween. But what, and then I guess the hippo would be his other interest, but it's just working at, like, what else does he bring to you?
But he loves swimming, loves water parks, loves roller coasters, loves all that stuff. He hasn't found a friend who is into exactly the same thing, but he has made a best friend, a little girl who she just became a freshman, little Evelyn, who is just the cutest thing in the world. She, you know, they're both in the special education department, and they. I always her mom and I joke that they're like boy and girl versions of each other. Totally different diagnosis, totally. And she doesn't like to do almost anything that Max doesn't like to do. She doesn't like roller coasters. She doesn't like going to the water park. She doesn't, you know, any of that stuff. But they both adore each other, and they both are obsessed with Mickey Mouse and watching their shows. And they mirror play next to each other. You know, they don't always play together.
Yeah.
You know, they like to do the same thing separately.
You
know, so they have the same sort of, you know, interests with certain things, and they're willing to, you know, and he's not normally very giving, you know, because being an only child, I think partly, and then being very like, you know, this is my stuff and, you know, organized and everything, but he's willing to share with her, and, you know, so it's been like a really...
If I ask about Evelyn, can I ask about her the next time he comes in?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to like.
It's his BFF. It's to call her.
I love that.
So that's been really, really nice. And she just came up to be a freshman. So that's kind of nice. They're in the same school. So that's been nice to see that he does, you know, have an actual friend that, you know, they call each other and, you know, all of that. And, you know, it's different because it's not like we say, okay, here you go off on your own and do a play
Here are
date.
the keys.
Right. You know, it's still, you know, like you have a young child and you're doing a play date where you're still participating in the play date and everything. But you know what? They're adorable and happy, and it's so
And that's
awesome
what really matters.
That's what really matters.
Yeah. Because I feel like a lot of parents too probably have, no matter what their situation is with their child, like they have an idea of what their kid's going to do, and you have to take a step back and let them flourish and support them in that flourishing rather than trying to mold them into what you want.
Right, what you want to happen.
Yeah.
Right. So, so we're letting Max lead the way. I do, you know, he's an only child. We don't really have any long-term, there's nobody in our family that we can say when we're gone, who's going to take care of him. That's the other thing that's hard when you have special needs and then you don't have siblings, or not that siblings are a guarantee, you know, but so, you know, Steve and I often talk about what's going to happen someday. So, now that he is getting older, we're slowly starting to bring up the conversations with him about group homes and not putting it to him that it's a group home where he's not going to be having independence and whatever.
Yeah.
Just that you might be living with friends and you'd
Like
be
a
living
roommate
away.
situation.
Yeah, roommate situation. But and he said, who's going to feed me? Because, the food and who's going to care about me and who's going to, when you're gone. And I said, when you're older, you may want all that independence and everything. I said the natural thing is to move out, not necessarily to live alone. You don't have to have your own house.
Sure.
You can have somebody that cares for you and everything, but you can still have a level of independence from mom and dad. So we're trying to prepare him for someday that he'll go into a setting like that, and then we have to figure out who someday is going to be responsible to care for him when we're gone, to manage his money and just that he has somebody looking out for him. So that is scary, more than just managing this, because we know we got him, when we don't got him, so that's sort of always there, in your head. But that's just something we have to figure out as he gets older, but we've got a long way to go for that. So I'm not going to.
That would be very intimidating.
It's very intimidating, especially because we're coming up on, 3 years, 2.5 years, he'll be 18.
Yeah.
We have to figure out, based on what his intellectual ability is, which technically he has a very low intellectual disability. That's how the state, when they test him, says that he is intellectually disabled. I don't think he could manage money and things like that. But so when he turns 18, we have to figure out about getting him like SSDI, Social Security disability, and then also trying to get guardianship over him, which can be challenging, and you got to go to court and all that stuff. So that's kind of like our phase we're at now is just, okay, how do we get to that point where we set him up for success, and that at 18 we're not kicked out of the room.
Is there someone you can go to with these questions, or is it just kind of like you going online and figuring it out?
You can go to an attorney, but it's very expensive. So we're going to try to go online and do it. You can do it yourself. I know it can be done yourself. It's just you got to dig in. But I don't think you can actually start doing it until we'll probably start preparing for it maybe when he's like 17, but I don't think you can actually apply for it until they turn 18.
Well, and I just found out from another client that actually used to live where you live and now lives up here in Wisconsin. The guardianship does not transfer from state to state.
Oh, really? Yeah.
So they have to do it all over again, and which is slowing down certain things.
Yeah.
And then getting him into places and managing his money mostly.
Yeah. Because, I think, and I don't know, and every state is different, but I think, you can apply for, like if Max does go into a group setting someday, I think you can get government aid for that, because I can't even imagine how much money that is, with all of that. But yes, none of that transfers state to state. So if we moved to Wisconsin, we'd have to apply for
all of it.
Yeah, all over again, so that you get the Wisconsin money for whatever that is. And
well, I think they said part of the reason they came up here was there's more resources for them up here.
Yeah, there's actually a big Prader Willi community, it's called a Economawalk.
Yeah.
Right? There's a huge Prader Willi homes up there. And
Oh, wow.
Yeah. That's probably one of the larger ones is in Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know how that came to be. But unless the community just, early on was able to forge that, they have housing and all kinds of stuff. So
I mean, it is kind of nice that it's in proximity to where you guys live now.
Yeah. So there's a couple of homes in Illinois that are so from what I understand, but they only take like 4 kids, you know, so, and it's also finding matches for your kids. You want them to, if they're going to be living there, you want to find compatible people that they're going to be living with, and, all of that. And, given that.
And even when you're getting your own roommates, you find out the hard way, usually from experience.
Right. And you have to trust who's in charge of that house, who's caring for them, and, all of that stuff. So, so it's a lot, but.
When has Max been to any conferences since he was little?
No, we never brought him to a conference, just because they have actually, in some of them they have kitty care or whatever.
Yeah.
now that he's old enough, he could probably be like a helper at
Yeah.
it. But at night it was kind of nice because it's, they're really long days, and a lot of information download that,
Yeah.
all the parents like to go out and kind of have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like we like to go out and decompress and
Yeah.
stuff. And, if you bring your child, you can't really do that.
Yeah.
Then it's like,
No.
okay, I just heard about Prader Willi for 8 hours. Now I'm going to go live Prader Willi for the
Yes.
rest of the day.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And you need that community too.
Yeah.
You
I
need-
mean, it's been huge having the community because that's how I've met most of the community is conference early on, is that, you meet people and then you go out at night and next thing you know, you're like in the trenches together. And
Sure.
social media, Facebook has been
Yeah.
amazing.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
there's groups. There's
For everything.
For everything.
Yeah.
As much as people want to diss Facebook, I cannot because it's been a lifeline for me. You
Oh,
know?
100%.
And it's not the same as doing it on Instagram or any of those
Sure.
other
No.
platforms. So, that's where a good bulk of my really good friendships have been formed.
Now the other boy that has it, how old is he?
So Max is 15. I think he's 13.
He's 13. Okay.
Yeah, he more understands the disability and is not that happy about it.
Yes.
So he fights being a part of the community more.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
So it's hard because he wants to be in the gen ed and with all those other boys and everything. And, it's hard. It makes it, that much harder for the family to deal with when you have them fighting what they are,
Yes.
not accepting themselves for
Or
For
just at least the limitations that they.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So it's challenging. So, you guys know Max, he loves his life. He knows his life is hard. He, does talk about it. He does talk about what's going to happen to him when I'm not here. He understands that stuff. So
that'd be
he's an old soul.
heartbreaking.
It's very difficult conversations to have. He does worry about it at a very young age. But at the same time, he loves his life. Could not be happier. Granted, he doesn't have a lot of friends his own age and, that kind of life, but he loves his adults and he loves camp and loves school and,
Oh yeah, because he goes with all my other buddies. Well, and you have such a great support group.
Yes, I've been very lucky that I have family close by and, they're willing to help out. And so that's been huge.
But I think that's also a huge testament to the selflessness of you and your husband realizing early on, like you said, you quit your job at that time and all the sacrifices that need to be made even early on so that at this point, he's 15.
Yeah.
So that now 15 years later, you can look back on that and see noticeably Max loves his life.
And I'm working again. I have a full-time job.
Yeah.
I was able to go back to work. And once he got into school, I slowly went back to work. It's just we had to do what we had to do at that time. And, life does come back. And,
Yeah.
Sure.
Once you get into the groove of it and figuring out, when this happens, we do this. And do you feel like going back to work made it harder in some ways? Because a lot of jobs aren't set up for families in the first place. You need to leave early to pick up your kid, and they're like, "That's not our problem."
Right. So I was very lucky that a company that I worked for before Max, before Steve, it's the same company that I work for.
Oh,
and
wow.
I kept in contact with them for all over the years and still knew people there and everything. So when I went back part-time, dipped my toe, and it was always the understanding that, initially it was hourly so that I could go to school when I needed to. And, because Max initially was, only part-time in school with kindergarten, it was half days and all that stuff. So I slowly went back full-time and, I was lucky in the fact that they are understanding about that, and I found a place that said, as long as you're getting your job done, as long as, you're doing what needs to be done, however you need to do it, whether you're working earlier hours in the morning and so you need to leave at 3 o'clock, or,
that's great.
Not everybody's that lucky, so, you just have to find what works, for your life, to be able to manage it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I know Steve's supportive and everything. But was there anything that you were shocked by with him after the diagnosis, or?
No, I mean, I definitely take the lead. You know, he is my support, but I definitely sort of just went and run the show.
Oh, you're very.
That's just my personality.
Yes, I was like, you're always a strong. Presence.
I have a need to be like, this is what it is. Okay, you know, I need to figure out how I'm going to make it better, what I'm going to do, and you know, and that, you know, because I was the one then that quit my job and stayed home, which made more sense. My husband made a lot more money than me. He had his own company, and you know, it made more sense. I was the one who was doing all the therapies. I was the one doing all the research. That was like, that was my job, you know? So that just became, you know, the way it is. I'm the doctor. I'm the one that goes to the doctors. You know, one parent kind of always has to take the lead.
Sure.
To, you know, you can never have both parents sort of doing that same job because, you know.
Too many chefs in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, I really, him and I mean, I'm lucky because, you know, a lot of parents end up getting divorced, you know, and one parent can't deal, you know. I would say I'm stronger at dealing with certain behaviors and things like that, but I think that's just the nature of my personality.
Sure.
You know, and boy versus mom is, you know, he's a mama's girl, you know, that kind of thing. But thankfully, you know, I think it was helpful. It was partly strategic, partly, you know, we had to do in vitro to get Max to begin with. And, you know, we were like, are we going to have another kid? You know, all that stuff. And we just said, let's just get through what Max's needs are. And a few years will go by and we'll see where we're at. And, you know, think about having a second child. And the older I got, I was like, well, you know, now I know there's more room for, you know, because I was over 35, I was nearing 40. Are there going to be autism? There, you know, I said, you know, I don't know if I could handle two without the guarantee that the second one isn't going to
have needs.
And I said, if I'm not willing to do that, I don't want to have a kid so that Max, because that was part of it, was like, do we have a second kid so that when Max is older, there's somebody here for him always, you know?
Yeah.
And I was talking to one of my doctors about it, and he's like, you know, there's no guarantee, number one, that kid is going to be able to provide that, or that they will want to provide that.
Yeah.
Don't have a kid for a reason. Only have a second kid because you're desperate to have a second kid and you want a second kid. And Steve and I just kept putting it off. And then we finally realized, we're like, you know what? We're just one and done. And, you know, we are just going to give everything we have to Max. So I think that helped us to just be on the same page and not be fighting between this kid needs this and you know what I mean? And
or one parent spends more time with the other and the other one is upset because.
Right.
Because I see that a lot too, especially when they first get a diagnosis and there's all these therapies and all this stuff going on.
Attention and time goes to the kid who needs it the most, unfortunately, you know.
And it's sometimes...
the other kid does emotionally suffer for that oftentimes, you know. Some kids rise to the occasion, some kids, you know, end up hating that child because of it, you know. So I was very thankful that doctor had that conversation with me.
Well, and you have not luckily because you've put all the footwork in, but you've got support outside of even just your family. You have friends and
very lucky that I have good friends.
Some of them that would either have an answer for you or be able to like help you find an answer.
Yes, I've been very lucky. I mean, even just being support, you know, when Max had his spine surgery and then I had back surgery a year or two ago, and my friends always rally and say, okay, we're putting together a meal train where, you know, wherever we can take the load off you to make your life easier, you know, so having surrounded myself with really good friends and, you know, beyond just family, I find I'm very fortunate that I have that because I mean, you know, it's, you know, I almost feel bad saying, yes, make the meal train, you know, but they're like, let us help you. And that has been a huge help to just take one, you know, load off my shoulders,
Absolutely.
You know,
I love Maxie. Like part of me is selfish to say like, I love that he'll always be young.
Yeah.
Because we get to enjoy him so much longer. Not that growing older is unenjoyable.
Right.
But
it goes fast.
It does.
And his is going slow.
Yes. So
But in a good way,
Yes.
mostly a good way. I mean, I will say, I've noticed he has matured a lot. I mean, there's definitely more independence in him and, that kind of stuff, and being a teenager and being a jerk sometimes and everything. And I just have to remember, that's not Prader Willi syndrome. That's just being 15.
Yes.
Sure.
Yes.
But it is nice because I've gotten to enjoy, like, he still wants to hang out with me.
Sure.
He's still, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that goes away for a lot of kids. I mean, where they're like, ugh, mom, and I don't think I'll ever have that from him. I mean, he loves,
Hanging out with you.
hanging out with us and,
There is that nice part of my oldest. We were going through the whole see where they're at on the spectrum thing, and he's 13. He's 13 now, but we always knew he was a little neurospicy somewhere. And sure enough, we got him diagnosed. I think it was earlier this year, earlier this year. He's on the spectrum, but we do see that with him where he is like, he's not your typical 13-year-old.
Right.
He enjoys falling asleep in our bed. He wants to be cuddly. He wants to do that. And part of me is like, it's not always going to be like this. So
Right. Enjoy it.
I'll enjoy it for now.
Yeah,
even
because
though-
sometimes I'm like, I don't know, is he too old to be doing that?
Yeah.
And then there's that part of me that's like, why is he too old to be
Yeah,
doing
yeah,
that?
yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You know?
more of a societal
Right.
yeah. thing that
Right.
is not, if we look back generationally, I mean, people were single in under one roof, right?
For
like everyone was in
Co-sleeping
one room.
in the
Right.
hay on
Right.
the loft of the barn.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
there was 15 kids still.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
No one had separate bedrooms
No.
Right.
a
Right.
few generations
It wasn't like, get out of
back.
my way,
Yeah.
I want privacy. Yeah.
No, I try to remember, even though now, and I'm sure you probably feel this, is like my wife is a little bit more lenient on letting them fall asleep in our bed. I got to move them.
I have to say that I'm lucky with that. I didn't get to have it as a little kid because he
Sure.
always liked to sleep by himself.
Oh,
and he
okay.
actually did not want to be read to. It was so bizarre. Like
Yeah.
when he was little, I would sing to him, and like, oh, and I had him in the little thing next to the bed and
Yeah.
everything. And then when he was like old enough to be in his own bed, he was like, I want to go to bed.
No, thank you.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even to this day, like if I stand in the room and talk to him too long,
Yeah.
he's like, you can go now.
You're like,
So there's no falling, but every so often he would fall asleep like on the couch, like, he'd
Sure.
be cuddling me and calling, and then you're stuck. You can't move
Yeah.
because, you're like, oh, it's like when your dog falls asleep on your lap. You're like, I
Yes.
just won't go to the bathroom for the next 5
Sure.
hours
Yes.
until you're ready to get up.
Yeah.
It is. But I know it's gonna, it may last forever, but I'm also trying to enjoy
yeah.
it as well.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you guys for thinking of me. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, I always love talking to you.
I
Yeah.
know. We always have a good time.
Yes.
When we hang out.
That's been one of the foundations of starting the podcast, though, because I feel like there are so many things that people go through in life, and you feel like you're alone on this island. And the truth is that, well, hopefully somebody has experienced it
Right.
or walking through it, and you can
Right.
find a little bit of a community in that.
Yeah.
And even if one person hears this and they're
Yeah.
like, that would be
absolutely.
that would-
Or I've noticed.
I've noticed this, yeah.
Yeah. Like I wonder if that's something I should look into.
I was gonna ask, what is something to look out for as a baby?
As a baby, like at birth, it's the low tone. It's the floppy baby, not meeting your mile markers, like not autism meeting your mile markers, like they can't lift their head. They
Okay.
can't, they're having a hard time eating because they're so weak. It's really that like floppy baby. They're, when you put them down, they're like this. They're sleeping all the time. He slept all the time. A lot of times that will now start to get caught more in the hospital. But if it doesn't, and, Max was a couple of years, but, I do know families that I'm friends with now that their child didn't get diagnosed till they were 7 or 8.
Really?
And a lot of it is, maybe they're hitting other markers, what I mean? And so it gets overlooked. But the biggest hallmark is if you know that your kid is ravenous all the time and starting to have this like preoccupation with food and stuff like that as they get older, if it's been missed, and you just see like something is not right here, like
Yeah.
what is going on, then, you got to go to your doctor and say, what could it be
Yeah.
if there's, this,
Yeah.
but I've, met with, people have reached out to me and said, hey, my cousin's, son or whatever has, this thing with hunger and these different things or whatever. What should I tell them? I said, hopefully it's not Prader Willi. I said, but they should rule it out.
Sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that there's been diagnosis because of, more and more outreach and people knowing about it. And that's why, anytime someone says, hey, you want to come on my podcast or do you want to talk about it or whatever? I'm like, yeah, because the more people that know about it.
Yeah, of course.
Back in the day, no one wanted to talk about anything.
Sure.
Put it under the carpet.
Yeah.
But I find the more honest I am and the more I talk to people about stuff, the more I find out that everybody's got stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Whether it's Prader Willi or autism or anything, just
exactly.
Anything. Yeah. People are all going through something.
Well, and that's when I first started working with at the other salon.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about autism.
Yeah.
At all. And then slowly, as I got older and I was interacting with more families, but it was at the beginning, hush hush.
Yeah.
Like parents would pull me aside.
Right.
And now it's loud and proud.
Right.
There's another family that you might know them, but I learned so much from their daughter because she is a very good advocate for herself.
Yeah.
And explaining
Max has become a good advocate for himself, very good advocate, even at school. And he has no problem telling people what he has and what he needs. And, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't want kids, I know people who say, when we went to the school, we don't tell them that they have anything wrong. We just want them to go in and have the same, as everyone else. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they get the accommodation? Why shouldn't they get what they need to be as successful as possible? Yeah. So, it's all what you,
well, and the advocating, he went into the back to say hi to Vanessa and she had pretzels and he come out, he's like, can I have one?
Yeah.
Thankfully
he asks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But usually I try to preface, when I go in places, when I bring Max to work with me, I tell them to put away all the snacks. Out of sight, out of mind is better.
Is that something that he had from birth or is it something that developed
It develops over time.
Okay.
Yeah. And unfortunately, as they get older, that's why that neurologist said it gets harder when it gets older. And I didn't know what she meant at first. It's because, when they're younger, they go through stages of hunger until they get to full hyperphagia, is what they call the full hunger. Where it becomes truly unrelenting. And, you lose a lot of your controls because they're out of your house, and then going to school. I mean, there's parties, even at a dance, they've got food out, they've got, it's just harder to control.
Yeah.
100%.
Sneaking and, having eyes on them and all that stuff. So.
Wow.
Is that how most people get diagnosed then if they're older and they get diagnosed, do you think?
If they're older and they get diagnosed, I think it's a lot of times because of the hunger or maybe just they're not... they get obesity, they get, and, a lot of them will have a lot of medical issues and stuff like that. They end up with, a lot of kids who do get truly obese and all that stuff, they will end up with type 2 diabetes. They'll end up on trachs because they can't breathe. You'll have breathing issues. You basically die from the obesity, related stuff. So, I think as people get older, there are symptoms that maybe they just continue to test for. But I mean, there are people who probably even missed their whole lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because people get, they're just fat. They can't stop eating.
Sure. Yeah.
Wow.
And that's I just watched that, what is it called? The Biggest Loser documentary.
Oh.
And it talks about, being overweight and people just being like, just put the food down.
I know.
But it's like you
it's
said,
not that easy.
It could be something else. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, of
That's
course.
fun.
No, thank you
feel
for
so
making the
official.
trek
Doesn't
out.
it?
I know.
It feels so cool.
Let's go.
Well, that's a wrap for today's episode of Yall Be Good. And as always, a reminder that we are a project of Little Lion Cuts. We hope you've enjoyed these stories just as much as we have enjoyed sharing them. Every family has a story, and we're just grateful that we get to hear yours too. If you've enjoyed today's episode and you think someone else might need to hear it, don't forget to share this podcast with them. And hey, while you're at it, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. That really does go a long way. You definitely don't want to miss out on any of the real, raw, and inspiring conversations we've got lined up. And we'd love to hear your stories too. So go ahead and find us on Instagram at Yall Be Good Pod or drop us a message with your thoughts. And until next time, y'all be good.